awesome. Be
Is
working
it?
on my second one here in a little bit.
Dude, with your body mass, though, like 2 of them, that's like 6 for a normal size dude.
It doesn't even bother me.
Oh, you've been building up your tolerance, haven't you?
No idea.
What's Wanzik typing? Oh, yeah. Protein bar. Love it. Anyway, welcome to the Practical Pistol Show. My name's Ben. I'm here to answer shooting questions. We've got Hoppy Cakes. Say hello.
Hi.
He does not like being called that at all.
God, no.
Don't call him Hoppy Cakes, internet. Be nice. He'd rather
Thank
be
you.
Angry Matt than Hoppy Cakes. Mr. Tim Herron. Another
Hey, guys,
familiar
what's going
face.
on?
Drunk Tim.
I'm not drunk.
Maybe we'll record a couple of these and we'll get there.
I'm going to work on it.
Can only hope. Here it is on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
All right. And we have a new face. A familiar face to many. But many people are like, who is this motherfucker? And the audio rip listeners don't know what I'm talking about yet. Juansik. Kim. Say hello.
I'm here to practice my English.
You know, if I made that joke, that would be culturally insensitive and racist. If you do it, it's a little bit meta. I like it. Wanzik, for people who don't know you, why are you interesting? So I think you're genuinely interesting.
Yeah, I moved to the U.S. 5 years ago, but I've been shooting only 2 years and a half. Yeah, like almost the first time I shot a pistol, I fell into shooting like Call of Duty, and I saw this GM shooting a plant rack when I watched USPSA sanction match, and I was like, oh, I gotta do that. I gotta be a GM and be Call of Duty GM.
Okay.
And practicing every day.
Well,
A Call of Duty GM?
Yeah.
That's a video game?
That's better.
Yeah, that's
that's
the
better
thing
than a
in
regular
Korea.
GM.
Well, I'll tell people why I think you're interesting, Juansik. Juansik is one of those dudes that you meet who's like really motivated, and you can tell they're going to get good really fast. So I met Juansik a couple years ago when he's pretty new to shooting, and the prediction was true. GM already. You've already won. You won 2 area matches already.
One.
I'm not trying to shit on that. That's like winning an area match in production is no shit. That's hard to do. He's already done that, and I think Juansik has a bright future in shooting. I mean, the Korean thing's kind of interesting. I would prefer you spoke better English. So if you were a white boy, that'd be perfectly fine. Your shooting story is interesting to me. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like
I agree.
the Korean thing is, I guess, a bonus on some levels. I mean, maybe when we send you back to North Korea, or Trump sends you back, then you won't be shooting so much anymore. But till that happens, we'll see.
Yeah, but my wife is an American citizen, so it's not gonna happen.
Dude.
Oh, man, you
Never
locked that
say
shit in.
Never say never.
Lock that shit in.
And I'm
I got
proud
my
of you.
G card, so.
I'm proud of you that you found a sweet young American girl with a big heart to take advantage of. I did the same thing back when I was your
No, she's
age.
a wise person. She's wise.
She's wise?
Yeah, she's very wise. That's why she said yes when I proposed her. So.
Oh my God. Amazing. All right, let's get to the first topic. Topic of the day. We're going to talk about sponsorship. I got a few emails recently asking me to sponsor a match. The Pro Shop gets emails all the time, people asking to sponsor a match. It is sponsorship request season for you too, Mr. Hopkins. Isn't it?
Every year at the beginning of the year, always is.
So how many emails?
The smart ones get it in early, actually.
How many emails would you reckon you got this year?
I don't know.
So far,
I'll get
just
probably
guess.
50 to 100 for the whole year.
50 to 100 requests for sponsorship for a match.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is an interesting topic for people, and I know there's quite a lot of match directors that listen to this. So I think Hopkins, especially, I'll chime in a little bit. I'll sponsor the odd match here and there. The Pro Shop sponsors, I don't know, maybe 10 matches a year. I do 5 or 10, something like that. I don't do a ton of it, but I do it occasionally. So we should talk about, if you're looking for sponsorship for your match, some do's, some don'ts, some expectation setting, that sort of a thing. Hopkins, first, let's set
I
some
don't know. What do you
expectations, right?
expectations? I mean, it's got to be worth it to the sponsor to do it. You can't have the Austin Hose Fest with Tim Myers. Sorry, Tim.
Get your
That's
Tims
okay.
right.
Tim Myers running the Austin Hose Fest with 5 dudes. That's probably not going to be the match that we're going to sponsor.
All right, so what is worth it to you? So how do you make that decision?
We've got to have visibility. We got to see returns on it. We have to. There's got to be shooters there. There's got to be numbers. The more numbers, the better. Or
How
the
do you
more like high profile the match, the better.
Yes, so nationals is just inherently better than section match.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And yeah, we'll
Tim,
sort of
you had a question?
Yeah, I'm just okay. You said you got to be able to kind of see returns. Like, what returns are you looking for as a sponsor? I mean, what is considered? I guess.
The easiest one is like contact back from people that shot the match, either thanking us about the sponsorship or thanking like because we sponsored it. That's the easiest to do because it kind of comes directly to me and you can track it by email and that kind of thing. Pictures in magazines, pictures and videos that we can share. Just post from the website and Facebook page and linking back to our website, they could track that.
All right,
So
Matt.
do you make that decision whether you're going to sponsor the match? Do you do it, or do somebody upper, like your boss, do it?
I do it for the action pistol shooting stuff. All the shooting pistol sports, I do.
Okay,
See,
Matt, I'm gonna say something. I'll make a statement that I'll say I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'll say it and I'll see what your reaction is to it.
all right.
Sponsoring major matches is a net loser for companies.
For the most part, I'd probably have to agree with that.
From a strictly financial sense.
It's very hard to show proof that the money you spent on that sponsorship is coming back. But there's ways to justify it, like the production numbers in the division are growing in nationals.
Right.
Stuff like that. There's metrics you can use to do that.
So when you go to your boss and you want to get shit to sponsor matches, which helps you go to them, right? This is what we're talking about?
Well, yeah, you have to prove, at some point you have to prove like the money going out is worth it.
And you're saying that's maybe a little tough for you to do.
It's not the easiest thing, no.
Okay. I am of the opinion in many cases it is a net loser. So companies, I won't name any names, but you oftentimes see companies kind of relatively new to the sport or to the space. They come out for a year or maybe 2 and sponsor everything, and then you kind of don't see them again.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say, Matt?
I
I'd
would agree with that
I'd
as
agree
well.
with that, yeah.
Yes, and I'm of the opinion that's why. So in terms of setting expectations, people asking for stuff from sponsors, and I'll be honest about this too. I think this applies to sponsoring a shooter as well, in a lot of
Yeah.
cases.
There's a lot of parallels for sure.
Yes, it is very difficult to justify doing that. In specific cases, with either if you're giving them nothing and they promote you, essentially giving them nothing, and they promote the hell out of you, that's that's going to be a winner. But like I'm talking shooters that you're paying a salary to or something like that. That's very difficult for those people to return value to the company. Very difficult. I think
And I don't
that's a
think the
loser.
return value is them shooting matches and winning matches. I think it's in R&D, testing, doing demos, that sort of thing. The
Yeah, well,
return,
it's
the
them actually
return,
working a job, doing something other
yeah,
than
well,
shooting.
yeah, yeah, basically,
I,
that's the easiest
I
way to say it.
I think it has a lot more to do with personality more so than it does performance.
What?
Like with a sponsor, if a sponsor picks up a shooter to have a shooter represent their company, I think the personality of that shooter is a better asset than just what type of performer they are on the
Exactly.
range.
That's why sponsored shooters just tend to be better people, in my opinion.
It's
I'm
I think
serious.
the characteristics important, but I think nowadays, even the characteristics not so good. If your social network presence is really good, I think it's okay. I think sponsors sponsor people who have good YouTube channels nowadays, kind of thing, you know.
I
Yeah,
agree,
of course.
and a lot of it's just their personality. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you I haven't won a national championship or anything yet, but I think I'm
No,
attractive to certain sponsors and things like that just based on
I
the fact
think
I've got a good personality and a good social media
I think
presence.
you're very attractive.
Well, thank you.
Okay. So anyway, uh, the first thing I would say to match directors, or well, for people looking to get their match sponsored, probably some company giving you stuff that's not really going to come back to them. Like financially, it's not a winner for them. If you trade, the normal arrangement is that you give them some, they give you some stuff, and you give them a slot.
Yeah,
And
normally.
that is a deal that's okay for them. So they kind of pay for the match in that way, and you call them a sponsor, but they get to shoot the match, but like financially, it's not really going to do anything for them, which is fine.
But even then, you know, the match director or the match asking for sponsor participation on that in an effort to get a slot, I mean, it's still in order to receive a match slot for that match for that sponsor, that's a very costly
No,
proposition to the sponsor, isn't it?
no, it's not. Typically a section match, I would say usually they'd say, hey, we want $500 worth of product. All right, for a slot, and maybe it's a match that costs $100.
Okay.
So depending on what it is you're selling, and we'll get into this, depending on the product that you're selling, that $500 retail value may or may not um, be a lot of stuff. Like like some guys like me might give out a certificate for a class. Like if I I don't do this, by the way. I don't like this practice, but if I gave out a maybe I give them a bunch of like 20% off certificates for my classes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is no money out of pocket, but maybe that would then you know cut into a sale or something like that.
Well, that's a good point, though. Is that really so?
I don't view that as like that's not legit sponsorship. I think that's sort of scummy actually to do
I
that.
I would totally agree with you, and I think that
Right.
matches have gotten a lot smarter about that,
Yes.
and they don't allow that to happen as much anymore.
No, they don't, because that's kind of
And
bullshit.
because yeah, if you get a percentage off, and then you still have to spend any amount of money, basically the sponsor's not out anything.
They're probably
Gaining.
like I would actually make money on somebody paying 80% of a class fee and taking a class.
Yeah, and I think that goes to another point: is these matches need to realize like the real value of what they're getting from sponsors.
Yes,
Does that make sense? Like
of course.
one item is not the same value as another item, even if the
Right.
MSRPs are the same price or different.
Of course. So usually it'll be like $500 worth of gear or something like that. So maybe Tim at the pro shop, Tim is going to sponsor a match that he wants to shoot, and he'll get like $500 worth of gear at MSRP and give it to the match. Now, he's definitely going to spend more than like the $100 match fee on gear, but he's not
Right.
going to spend the markup on that stuff's not that big.
Right.
He's not. The only thing there's any real margin in his belts actually, but okay, so he just gives them like mag pouches and holsters and that kind of bullshit, and he's like, "Here you go, there's $500 worth of stuff," and then, you know, he gets a slot to the match. So it kind of ends up being like, oh, it's sort of an okay deal. It's okay for the sponsor. Like it's not like it's going to come back to him in a bunch of sales, but he wasn't out that much, so it's not kind of a huge deal, and it puts stuff on the prize table for people. So it ends up being an arrangement that kind of works. So the reason I bring this up about the expectations is so if so when you get a bunch of emails and it's like, hey, we want $500 worth of stuff for our section match, and it's like, okay, that's just kind of about what it is. I got one email from a section match where they wanted $2,000 worth of stuff to sponsor them.
Yeah, that's another good point.
So that
Have
ends up being
some-
like, that's an easy one where it's like, fuck off. And I
Yeah. Have
Like-
some realistic expectations and like a realistic ask also. If you're a section match, don't ask as much as the Nationals is trying to do.
and I'll be honest, I'm not going to send a fuck off email. I'm not going to send a reply.
No, it's just a delete.
It's just
No
whatever.
response at all.
No. Okay, so Matt, if a match is looking to get sponsorship shit from you, what does it do? What do they do?
Oh, your mic quit working.
Start out with having like a good email that like explains what we're going to get for the sponsorship, not what you're requesting. 'Cause that can be the same exact thing can be said about shooters also. It's like, what value does the company get for giving you something? I think
Yes.
you need to get that out there first. If you start with that, it goes a long way.
Okay, anything else? Aside from a realistic ask.
I don't know. I mean, that's probably the best way to start.
Okay, and what would you say as a don't? Like, if you do, like, don't do this. Don't do this thing.
Don't contact me on every single piece of social media asking about it.
Yes, that's fair. I would say the bad experiences I've had is don't be a pushy dick, where it's like somebody will send you an email. I've gotten better about handling this, where I typically don't respond, but somebody sends an email, and it's like, hey, I want this thing for sponsorship, and then I just don't send a reply, and then they hit me again and again. One guy sent me an email I remember a year ago, and it's like, hey, I want this for the sponsorship, and he didn't specify what he wanted, but it was something that I was okay with sponsoring, because it's like it was regionally, it's kind of close to me, and it like seems like okay, guys. Again, not going to come back to me financially, and I didn't want a slot for anything because I wasn't going to go there. But just like, okay, what is it that you want? Is the answer to my question? It's what I sent them. The question, essentially, what do you want? And they answer back, just whatever you want to send me. I was like, no, motherfucker, like, Hopkins, you just cut out again.
Specific
Yes,
is very good also.
Yes, I was
Don't-
asking, what do you want? And then it's whatever you want to send. And it's like, no, I don't want to like send you a hundo and a couple books and have you think that I'm like fucking with you, not sending them enough. And I don't want to like load up, 30 things and send them to you and have it be, there'd be 30 people at your thing. Like, just like, what do you want?
Right. Being specific is very good also.
Yes.
And like and knowing like the whole deal, like knowing what you want and need to start off in the email would be good also. So like you say what you're going to give to the sponsor, then this is what we want for it. Those are really good.
You like that stuff, don't you, Matt?
Well, it's a lot easier to deal with that way, yeah.
Yes. So formulate your email, formulate the ask, make that clear. This is what I'm asking for. This is what you get. Send the email and expect no response. No,
It's honestly
be fair,
true.
to be
It's
fair,
true though.
send the email. Like, if I'm interested, I will hit you back.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
I've also had people that make it hard for me where they send me something like, hey, do you want to like somebody asked me to sponsor an event with some books or something. And I'm like, this was on Facebook. It's somebody I knew. I'm like, okay, cool. And then they sent me this link to like this thing I had to fill out, and it was like
Oh,
this
those are horrible.
multiple form, and I just I'm out. I didn't say I'm out. I just I clicked through this. I'm like, I'm not filling out all this bullshit to send you stuff.
So you're gonna make me jump through 37 flaming hoops
go fuck
to send you
yourself.
some stuff.
This is just not happening. And it's not that I'm it's not that I'm a dick. It's just I'm not gonna do this.
Whose song and dance is this anyway?
You don't gotta make it like Amazon Prime easy.
Oh yeah, one click shit, right?
It doesn't have to
Click
be
and
one
ship.
click sponsorship, but don't make it don't make it 4473 complicated for me either. You know what I mean?
Another thing I hate is once I've committed to a match, like the thing I hate the most is once I've committed and then like I get hit up about a fucking deadline. I don't want to deal with the deadline and having to send you stuff by the deadline. I've committed to it. I said I'm going to do it.
It's
you know,
happening.
it's
your
happening.
Word is your bond.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to have to it's annoying.
Yes. And then the other thing is, personal relationships in this do kind of matter. I'll give you an example. There's one which I think the Western States IDPA Championship, though the one in Northern California. I'll sponsor that match every year. I think I've done it like 3 years in a row. Now, people might think that's weird because I don't particularly give a shit about IDPA or maybe even California, so that seems weird. But those they send a really nice letter. I'm like, hey, that is geographically far away from me. It's probably good marketing. That's okay. I'll do it just for shits and gigs. And then when I get a snail mailed, hand signed letter of thanks from the match director, I'm like, much appreciated. Like, if he's gonna take the time to do that, I can take the time to put some shit in a box and mail it to him.
Another good thing is a plaque. The matches I've got plaques from, and could put on the wall at work where people walk by and see them every day. Those matches usually have multiple years of sponsorship. Just saying.
Yes, and if the match director or the person asking me for sponsorship goes out of his way to be an asshole to me, and this is true of you too, Matt. There's been we're not going to name any, but there's some personalities where it's like you see the guy like, this guy's involved with the match. I'm not sponsoring it. Fuck him.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yes. And
we don't want our name associated with that because of past experiences.
But let's be honest, it's not that. Nobody cares. It's not going to come back on CZUSA. It's just that you think the guy's a dick. Oh, come on. It's that you think the guy's a dick.
I'm sticking with my first answer.
Okay.
You're between the lines on that.
If there's not many of them. There's a couple match directors that are go out of their way. Not to not like me. That's okay. But guys that fucking hate me and don't shut up about how much they hate me, and then they'll send me an email asking for stuff. It's like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
But I don't send a fuck you email. I just smile a lot. I love getting the email from that sort of a guy, and then I just no, thank you.
I have an opinion about sending an email to possible sponsors. So the first year I shot USPSA, I sent many emails to possible sponsors, and literally only one or two responded to me, and none of them was responding it. So last year I actually got an advice from non-profit organization fundraiser. So I learned how to send professional email, like you guys said, being really straightforward on what the company will get and what I will get from the company. So I think if somebody's really, really into getting a sponsorship, I think the email has to be really professional and straightforward.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
So look
How
at that.
many
I even
did you
sent
send
the
out and
draft.
you only got 2 responses back?
What was that?
How many did you send out and only getting 2 back?
I would say nearly 20, 25.
So you got like 5% back?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually pretty
But
good, right,
my
Matt?
email was kind of crappy.
Oh yeah,
It
to
wasn't
start out with?
professional.
Was it broken English?
A little bit, yeah. It was,
Yeah, I'm
but
sure
I
it's
used
spell
Google
check.
Translator at least.
Oh god.
Hello. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. All right, hosers. That's a fun discussion. So, Matt, every year I hear you complain about that. So I'm like, that would actually make a good topic to discuss for people. Because matches are always trying to, like, they want guns, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Yes. So Matt's the guy to talk to. Oh, and if you want your match sponsored, you're gonna have to email Matt. So Matt, put your email address out there.
info@cz-usa.com.
That's so not you. That's awesome.
That's the email you use for a sponsorship.
You should put out your least favorite coworker's email address.
No, well, that's it right there.
Oh my God. Okay, let's move on to some questions. Hi Ben, I've listened to nearly all your shows and appreciate the time you guys have put into answering shooting questions. I have a few of my own on dry fire. I was in B class production all of 2016 and figured it was time to start practicing and class up. I've been dry firing an average of an hour a day, 5 days a week the past 5 weeks. Some dry fire sessions have been awesome. Grip is tight, reloads and transitions are on point, seeing my sights fast. But last week, I was fumbling reloads like I was drunk. Took me 30 minutes to warm up and never got down to the par times of my previous sessions. Do any of you have good days or bad days in dry fire? Or is this just due to me not being consistent in anything yet? How do I avoid or deal with an off day when it happens to be a match day? Tim, you're shaking your head yes.
Oh man, I've got bad days
You've
in dry
never
fire
had a
sometimes.
bad day?
Oh yeah, yeah,
What?
yeah.
All right.
Bad
So how do you
days,
deal with
bad
it?
days in dry fire happen as well. So I mean, bad days in live fire practice happen too. So it's, I think a lot of it has to do with just, I don't know, like your mental or emotional stamina. I mean, if I've had a really, really draining day at work and I'm just physically and mentally exhausted, it's really hard to kind of wrap my head around exactly what I'm doing. And a lot of times I'll go through the motions to kind of feel like I'm still, I'm kind of checking the box for putting in the effort. But yeah, I've had days where, I've smashed magazines into the bottom of my hand, doing reloads, or, fumbled the gun out of the holster almost every time, or just for some reason can't even match a par time that I was nailing 2 or 3 days before. I mean, it happens. So, I mean, the main thing is just trying to kind of find your center, so to speak, and trying to really focus on putting in the work. And other times if I've had nights like that before, and I might try to continue going through the motions for 10, 15 minutes, and I'm like, it's probably not a good idea for me to continue. And I'll just, park the gun back in the safe and go upstairs and, I don't know, hit the bed or watch TV or something, just to take my mind completely out of or off of anything. So, I mean, I think everybody has days like that once in a while.
Not you.
I could be wrong, but
Maybe. Matt, you don't have days like that?
You have to dry fire to get days like that.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point. All right, Wanzik,
Yeah.
how do you deal with your bad dry fire days?
So, my dry fire, my first year of shooting and my second year of shooting, my dry fire and all my training was very different. So, the first year of my dry fire, I had a lot of bad runs and bad days. And then second year of shooting, I had it's not rare. It's not common. It's very rare I make a mistake even in dry fire a lot. I think one of the reason there are a couple of reasons, but the first one was I had some sleeping issues and caffeine issues and sometimes drinking too. So when I like eat a lot of sugar, chocolate, or caffeine, when they go out of the system, I need more kicks, right? When I need more kicks, I tend to make more mistake. So it could
What?
be like personal chemical issue in your body as well.
Yeah, dude, just drink more. That's what I do. Drink
Yeah,
more.
you either want to drink more or quit it. So that's what I did. So I don't drink caffeine anymore in my training season, and I only drink it when
Jesus.
I have finals. So for me, that's more my physical consistency. So they can definitely affect my performance, whether match day or dry fire, anything like that. And also another thing is the first year of my shooting, I wasn't as visual. I was more focusing on my feeling instead of seeing what I have to see. So, for example, the first year I was focusing a lot about sensation, like my index fingertip going into the magwell. But my second year, I was focusing more of my eyesight focus, actually looking at the magwell pretty sharp. So when I look at the after the magazine comes out, when I flip it to let's say uh, put the magazine in, I didn't see the sharp edges of the magazine well, but now I see the sharp magazine well with my sight. And then in my dry fire, first year I was just keep doing part times and repeated motion. So in between the runs, I don't have any walkthrough kind of time or visualization time. So right now the difference is when I do one run and let's say I made a fumble reload, then I wouldn't just do it over and over and over until it gets it right. But I would stop the repetition part, but I would visualize as if I was at a match. So that means I don't have my gun on my hand, but it's just like walkthrough in my match. So I make a mistake, then I would not have a gun in my hand. I would just point it at the target, and then basically I'm doing the walkthrough before another run.
Oh, I see.
That way, that way I'm connecting my dry fire just like match. My dry fire got really different on the second year of shooting. So the first year I was just doing conventional draw, click, or reload with the gun all the time. But second year I was thinking my dry fire training isn't really like live fire or shooting a match. When I shoot a match, I never shoot one stage or one match without a walkthrough. So I start doing that walkthrough thing in my dry fire, and then it significantly increased my consistency level, and also it really translated to the match as well, because I'm doing exactly the same thing I do at a match and dry fire. So I'm basically practicing my walkthrough in dry fire as well, and it can help you using your subconscious skill. If that
Okay,
makes yeah.
so even if you're using that technique, are there
Mhm.
days that you're less consistent than others?
If I drink caffeine, yeah. But right now, my consistency is pretty much the same throughout the day.
You're gonna have a hard time in France, man. If you're not drinking caffeine, you're gonna be jet lagged to fuck. I'll probably shove sleeping pills down your throat every night, and in the morning you're gonna want some caffeine. I'll tell you that. So get used to it.
Yeah.
Okay, is it my turn to talk now?
Did it.
Yeah, I think it is. Yes, of course. I mean, there are days that I do more poorly than others, of course, in dry fire, and for me, those days usually occur like if I'm I want a faster reload. So I'm working on that hard for a week or something. That's kind of my focal point is one thing. I'm doing different drills and doing all the different stuff, but I'm really focused on the one thing. And if I start doing poorly at that, or I'm not making progress, I start getting frustrated. I'm just like, all right, time to move on to something else for a while, and I'll just switch up for that day. And it's like I'll work on movements a lot or something. So I just kind of work on the next thing. Uh, if if you have that happen during a match day, obviously you're gonna have to just you're gonna have to deal with it, and that's why if you're making mistakes in dry fire on a run on a particular run, you should not stop the drill in the middle. You should get used to working through your mistakes and things like that. So when you make mistakes in a match, you just all right. You make the mistake, you work through it, that's fine. And then when you go to the next stage, you should be like Wanzik's talking about, doing the mental rehearsal and that sort of stuff, and you can try to put the last stage behind you. But if you make mistakes at match day, like that's life. Welcome to shooting. That's the way it goes. Anybody have anything to add? No?
I don't think so.
All right. New at dry firing, I am not conditioned enough for it to not affect me the next day. My forearms and hands will be sore if my session's longer than 60 to 90 minutes. Thankfully, I've developed some calluses, so my fingers aren't hurting as much. I'm wondering, how long do you take off from dry fire, if any, before a local or major match? Or does dry fire only need to be reduced or rested up from, depending on the conditioning of the person? Thanks. Matt, this should be easy. You can go first.
A lot of days off before match.
Yeah, it's going to take a month off before each match, at least. All
Yep,
right,
totally.
Kwanzaa, what do you think about this?
I would definitely check how physically I'm feeling at the moment. So, like 2 3 days before either local match or a major match, let's say if I work out too hard and have terrible muscle sore, then definitely I'm not training. I'm focusing on resting part and physically getting ready. But generally, for local matches, I don't really take a day off the day before. But for major matches, I have not practiced. So every single major match, I have a travel day, and in between the time, I focus on the resting. So I don't really practice or dry fire at all. Or the day of match at a hotel, I would just focus on eating well and mentally getting focused. But she mentioned about doing 60 to 90 minutes and like getting calloused up all the hands. Uh, I listened to an interview a while ago, and then there was about like Captain Crush stuff, and he was saying basically if your hand strength is really high and you're using only 60-70% of your hand strength. So basically, he's saying if you do Captain Crush, make your grip strength really strong, then the time endurance will be bigger, will be better, so you can practice longer. So I actually did Captain Crush for that, and for me it worked. For me, it was definitely getting less muscle sore after like 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours.
Okay, I want to talk now. So I think if you're new to dry fire, 60 to 90 minutes a day is stupid. It's crazy. For most people, I recommend for people starting out, they go like 15 minutes or a half hour a day, and the reason is Kwanzaa's talking about you got to develop your hand muscles. So if you're pulling the gun out of the holster and you practice gripping it really hard, you're just not going to be able to do that for 90 minutes a day when you start. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's better to do it correctly for like 15 minutes than to do it for 90 minutes and then you're sore the next day and you can't do it right that day either. So start with like half an hour a day and work up, see where you can go from there. People who are really well conditioned can go longer, of course. People who aren't well conditioned, like you got to work up to it, and that's cool. Uh, I don't think you should have to rest before a local or a major, just from regular dry fire that you're doing basically every day. You shouldn't need to take a rest from that. your hands should be okay once you're conditioned. If you're doing extra practice or shooting a lot or something like that, then maybe you'll need to rest a little bit. If your hands are hurting and uncomfortable, like the day after you're doing dry fire and your hands hurt, I probably would not do a lot of dry fire that day. You don't need to keep doing it. Just give yourself a chance to recover, and in the long run, you're going to actually get to practice more and more productively. So that should be fine. And like Kwanzaa pointed out, there's usually a major match travel day if you're going to one of those. So rest is not much of a consideration for that. Anyway, Tim, what did you want to say?
No, that. You
Did I
hit the
hit it
nail
out
on
of
the
the
head.
park?
Yeah.
Boom.
My biggest thing was the 60 to 90 minutes. I think is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
I think so. It's, I don't know. It's too long.
Yes, I found I've actually found since I started, I probably dry fire less minutes on average, but I really feel like I get more accomplished because it's a lot more intense and focused, and the drills are better, and that sort of stuff, and I'm emphasizing the right things. Like it's probably better than just banging out repetitions for like 4 hours a day.
I agree.
I think.
Yeah. Having a significantly lower amount of lower amount of time spent on dry fire, but having that be way more intense or way more focused, I think is the key.
Yeah, like I'm the guy that'll put in a 2-hour movie and dry fire during it, the whole time, like standing and dry firing. But anyway, Wanzik, what did you want to say?
I like doing multiple sessions.
Yes.
And I'm still a college student, and there's a reason why there's 50 minutes of class and 10 minutes of break.
What's
for
the reason?
adults,
So you can go to the next class, right?
That too. And 50 minutes of dry fire, I think it's a good number per session, or less, 50 minutes. So I do 2 hours every day, and 1 hour session in the morning, 1 hour session in the night. Yep. I think it's about the efficiency of learning instead of the amount of your practice.
Yes, I agree. People tend to think in terms of round count, and not like if I do X number of rounds, then I learned that much, and it doesn't really scale that way.
Yeah, it's more time spent.
Well, I mean, even then, like, does it really scale that way? Is it's like how many good efficient repetitions can I do? That sort of a thing.
No, I will say this. I've gone down with the explicit thought that, okay, I'm only going to do 20 minutes tonight. I think that's all I've got in me, and I'll have some sort of breakthrough, something in dry fire that I wasn't expecting, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh man, I'm going to exploit that. So the next thing you know, I come back upstairs and like the house is silent, and it's 10:30 at night. I'm like, holy shit, like how long was I down there? I think I went down there at like 9:15 or something, and next thing I know I've been down there well over an hour, and it's like, oh, okay, well, not that I would even say that, not that time just got away from me and I didn't get anything from it, but it's one of those things where it's like you finally, you find some newfound strength, and you want to exploit it to its fullest, and like really drill that in. So I've had nights like that too. So, and that's, to me, those are the best.
Well, okay. I like it, guys. Another bang up show. Wanzik, I think you did good. I think you're gonna be a kind of a regular around here. We can kind of phase out Heron because he's a douche, and I'm getting a lot of complaints about him.
What?
I'm kidding.
I have a dictionary here, so
all right,
I'll be fine.
A douche is used to. Well, no, it'll be more fun. Use you got Urban Dictionary that, when you look at that anyway. All right, listener people, if you got a shooting question you'd like the answer to, go to bensteger.com. Send me your question. We'd love to take that for you. It's amazing.